And the story is World Cup fever.
Who has the best fans?
I am 100% biased. I am not rooting for Team USA. It is Team Japan all the way.
Japanese fans are cleaning up after themselves at the World Cup again.
Scottish fans in kilts drinking so much Boston beer that the local bars are running out.
Yeah, I love representing my heritage. Every single World Cup viewing party is always so much fun.
Okay, it is do or die time at the World Cup.
In Houston on Monday, Brazil survived an almighty scare against Japan.
Could we see sometime an Asian nation winning the World Cup?
Who's to say? I mean, stranger things have happened.
Hey, simultaneous. 3, 2, 1.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Meanwhile in Asia. I'm Kunal Sehgal.
And I'm Ivan Watson, and I'm here back in the studio with you.
Welcome back.
Look, I wanted to ask you, because we're going to be talking World Cup today. Do you have World Cup fever?
I have World Cup fever, but controversial opinion, I feel like for the first time, and I've been watching World Cups for a while now, but for the first time, I feel like I'm enjoying what's happening off the pitch rather than what's happening on the pitch. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the videos of fans having so much fun.
There was one video that popped up, and it was the Scottish fans in Boston.
Oh, I love the Scottish fans.
Drinking the Boston bars out of beer, like drinking people from Boston under the table effectively.
I absolutely love
that was pretty amazing.
I think those are some of my favorite videos. And then there were the Dutch fans in Texas. And then the Norwegian fans with their, Viking row in Times Square.
I confess I didn't know that that's a Norwegian thing, doing this mass rowing, right? And it's pretty awesome.
But look, I mean, the Asian teams also have their fans are having a lot of fun, especially the Japanese and the Koreans. I mean, they're right up there.
I'm going to throw out this controversial question. Who has the best fans?
Well,
and
I'm
to
not going to
answer that. And since you won't even say who your favorites are, we're going to turn to one of our favorite people, who's Hanako Montgomery, coming down the line for us from Tokyo. Great to see you, Hanako. Who has the best fans?
In your unbiased opinion.
Oh my God, you guys are going to make me answer the question because you don't want to answer the question. Okay, well, I'm going to say I am 100% biased. I am not rooting for Team USA. It is Team Japan all the way. Japanese fans, I don't know what it is. I mean, they went viral for eating Texas barbecue.
Amazing! Like, not hard.
Enjoying the mechanical bull, getting thrashed around. They went
saw that
viral
video.
for cleaning up the stadiums. Yeah.
And the cleaning up the stadiums,
trash bags.
I didn't know that's a thing. Forgive me for my ignorance, but I didn't know that's a thing.
Yeah, so usually for international sporting events, you do see Japanese fans cleaning up. I will say we don't clean up at every sporting event. Like if you go to a baseball game in Japan, you're not going to see people with their trash bags cleaning up. It does tend to be on the world stage. And I think part of it is because we like to present this image that Japan is a very clean country. We're respectful of public spaces. Even in Japanese schools, you learn how to clean your classroom. I grew up in the US, but every summer I'd come back to Japan and my parents would force me to go to Japanese school for a month, which was dreadful. I mean, it was traumatic. But I learned how to clean really well. It was really, really beneficial because you learn how to mop a classroom, you learn how to clean the stairs, you learn how to throw out the trash. And, cleaning is very much ingrained into sort of what we do when we're respecting public spaces. So I think that's why people have been picking up this quirky little thing about Japanese culture at the World Cup.
But not everybody believes it, right? The cleanliness?
No. I thought it was really funny, this World Cup. I watched the 2022 one and the one before that. But this time, some Japanese women have been pointing out that these husbands aren't cleaning up at home. They're just cleaning up when the world is watching. And I think Japanese women were a little bit frustrated that these guys were getting so much attention for cleaning up when they don't do it at home.
I don't know if you know this, but I grew up in Japan as a very young kid. I was there
really?
in
I didn't know that.
Yeah, preschool and kindergarten. And when I watched those videos, I actually clearly remember cleaning up. You cannot leave the class before you've put everything in order, including the bibs. when you're playing football. And that kind of, it was really funny because it reminded me how it's not just the Japanese fans that are, cleaning up, but it's also the Japanese football team. Before they leave the locker room, they kind of fold
They
in.
don't leave their towels on the ground.
No, they fold in the bibs and
That's
everything.
true.
And it's just like, it was quite... it was quite cute to see. But I mean, while there had been a lot of applause for the Japanese fans, I mean, there has been some controversy as well, hasn't it? Because of the rising sun flag.
Right, the flag.
Yeah, and I mean, it's appeared among
Yes.
some Japanese supporters, and like it's not banned by FIFA, the football governing body, but it has.
It is a little startling to see a flag I associate with World War II, on the street of an American city, right?
This is a flag that's been flown for centuries. It's a part of Japanese history, right? And it existed long before World War II. But as you just mentioned, it was flown during the Second World War by the Imperial Japanese Army. And for a lot of, neighboring countries that faced wartime atrocities by the Japanese Imperial Army, I mean, it is a really painful, aspect of their history, right? And we do see this flag being flown at many international sporting events. And, we saw it during the World Cup this year as well. But Japan has not banned the flag. The Japanese Self-Defense Forces, the Navy, they still use the flag. And as you mentioned, FIFA hasn't banned it either. So yeah, it is one of those sensitive subjects that does tend to come up during these sporting events. And yeah, it does bring up those wartime atrocities that Japan has apologized for and has expressed remorse for, but it is a very painful aspect of our history.
On a very different subject, at the time we're taping this, we don't know by the time our episode goes out whether or not Japan will still be in the World Cup because they're going up against Brazil.
I know.
Right before the knockout stages. And, as you know, in football, anything can
So
happen.
stressful, yeah.
I know you're biased, but I feel like my feed is full of Korean fans having the time of their life in Mexico and in the US. And I feel like their love story with Mexico is something that's like kind of, I don't know, it's touching a nerve with like a lot of people.
What are they connecting over, the Mexican and Korean fans?
It's quite, it's really funny. It's quite fascinating because you have to go back to the 2018 World Cup when South Korea beat Germany so that helped Mexico qualify for the World Cup. And since then, they've been in this love affair. The Mexican fans were like outside the South Korean embassy, like partying. They're celebrating as if their own team has won. And since then, it's kind of, I feel like, evolved over time more than just football. So when the World Cup's there and then South Koreans come to like Mexico and they're watching the game together, you can see them partying, like chanting, dancing together. And I just feel like it's one of those moments where you're like, yeah, this is what the World Cup is about. This is what sports is about, just bringing everyone together.
Is this an interesting moment for Asian Americans with the World Cup being hosted in the U.S. and teams coming from Asia to compete?
Yeah, I was thinking about this a lot. And in the U.S., the biggest sports that people really cheer for are the NFL, right? American football. And basketball. And you don't actually see a lot of Asian representation in these sports. So when it comes to the World Cup, right, when you have Team Japan, Team South Korea showing the world what they can do in terms of this sport, I think for Asian Americans who don't see a lot of representation in their home country, perhaps, they look to these teams and they're really hopeful, right? They feel as though they're being represented on the world stage. I think also, as someone who is an Asian American who grew up in the United States with Asian descent, it's nice to see, parts of your perhaps heritage, parts of your home country, again, playing on that world stage.
And everybody being able to experience each other's cultures and being introduced to them. Well, Hanako, thanks for coming in and helping share the Tokyo perspective. It's always awesome to talk to you.
Likewise. Thank you guys
Thanks,
so much.
Hanako.
All right, Kunal, we've talked about the fans. Now let's talk about the football. And to help us out, we have, of course, James Legg, who is our resident Asian football expert and the best dressed man in news.
Good to be back.
Welcome, James. Now, okay, before we go into this, again, to recap, we're taping this right before the knockout stages, so anything can happen. But that said,
a lot of teams could get knocked out.
a lot of teams can get knocked out, but we're going to be talking about Japan and South Korea. I mean, they are the two football giants in Asia, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Especially, no other team in Asia has such a good record of turning up at the World Cup every tournament. Yeah.
And does that go back to when both countries hosted their World Cup?
Yeah, well, Japan and South Korea co-hosted in 2002, which is a long time ago now. And in preparation for this, in the 90s, both countries. Well, it reminds me of. Do you remember last time I was here about 3-4 weeks ago, we were talking about how China had tried to kind of expand their football facilities
from the highest levels of government.
Yeah. And well, the funny thing is that Japan and South Korea back in the 90s attempted something similar and have had a lot more success. In preparation for this tournament in 2002, they did things like boosting training facilities, really investing in the K-League and the J-League, which are their kind of respective top tier
Football leagues, domestic leagues, yeah.
And what you see now is the fruit of that. Both teams are always at qualifying for the World Cup, often making it, past the group stage, into the latter stages of the tournament.
They've done really well, but what did they do things so differently than China? Why was it so successful?
Well, there's a lot of answers to that question, but I mean, a couple of things. I mean, one, it was not quite as top down. It was,
right.
As we discussed with China, literally from the top down, like Xi Jinping downwards. It wasn't, they're different countries, right? They're free markets,
dramatically different political systems as well.
Yeah, so it became a little bit more grassroots, a little bit more community based, but it also, in fairness, they've just had a much longer run at it.
That's true.
The Chinese thing that we were talking about only really peaked or got going in earnest about 10, 12 years ago. We're talking about things that started in the 90s, and back then, Asian footballers, especially Japanese, South Korean footballers in European leagues were a bit of a rarity. People of my generation will remember like Hidetoshi Nakata, who played in Italy with great success, maybe Shinji Ono, who played in the Netherlands, but those are really the only two who come to mind. It wasn't until 2002 onwards that you started to see more of this. And now, if you look at the rosters for the World Cup for Japan and South Korea, these players, about 90% are all playing in Europe's top leagues, and that is that's an outcome of all of this kind of cultural shift over almost 30 years.
I mean, I saw this stat over the last 6 years. Japanese players that are playing in the top 5 leagues in Europe have doubled. So clearly they're seeing a result of all that effort they've been putting in for like a much longer runway, like you said.
And the other thing that surprised me was that the Japanese put forward kind of a 100-year plan back in the 90s to win a World Cup, and then they revised it a number of years ago to a 50-year plan.
Oh, how's that going? I mean,
because I guess they're that much more confident about someday winning it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's going really well. I mean, even now, they've been quite good at this World Cup, haven't they? I mean, I've been quite impressed by them.
They had a great result against the Netherlands, one of Europe's top countries. And yeah, they got out the group as second place. But yeah, I mean, this is not a country who any other country wants to face.
But how do they now strengthen their squads or their football culture, both Japan and South Korea? I mean, they've been consistently qualified for the World Cup, which is great. And they're doing well in the regional tournaments. But now how do you, that step up? What's missing?
Well, I honestly think that there's a certain chicken and egg situation here, isn't there? In that you get players into the top European leagues because they're good. But then you get good players because your players are playing in the top European leagues. Yeah. And what you can expect probably is a certain amount of cyclical, a positive spiral over time. In the case of South Korea, Lee Kang-in, who's playing the PSG, that's the best team in Europe right now. Son Heung-min, of course, was one of the best players in the world when he was in his peak at Tottenham. In Japan, Kubo is doing really well with Real Sociedad in Spain. What's also worth pointing out this World Cup is that Japan are missing some of their best players because of injury. I mean, Kubo got injured, Mitoma as well. There's a few others who they're missing. So you're not even seeing all of the best players they've got.
James, you mentioned about Son Heung-min. I mean, he's a huge star, not just in South Korea, but in Asia. I mean, what is his importance to the South Korean team? Is it equivalent to Messi in Argentina?
I would say equivalent in terms of how much of the team is structured or has been structured around one player. Yeah, the comparisons are quite similar, really. But like Messi, Son is now playing in the US.
Yeah.
Having written awfully on Messi previously, I'm not going to do that again.
Okay.
But he is on the downward trajectory of his career. He's been colossal. Of course, he's, Asia's best ever football player.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
He's, on the top of my head, 33. He was one of the best players in the Premier League. He won the Golden Boot jointly with Mo Salah a few years ago when he was at Tottenham. And the problem is when you build your senior team around one player and then, they aren't quite the player that they used to be.
Yeah.
You've got to transition out of that. You've got to make space for other players. And that's going to be what South Korea have to do after this tournament because he hasn't performed as well as, he might have 4 years ago, 8 years ago. They haven't performed as well as they would have wanted to, but they are going to have to find ways to enter the post-Son Heung-min era.
I don't want to embarrass you too much, but the last time we spoke in here, you made a few predictions.
Oh.
How have they turned out?
Got a
It
lot
was
of
about
heat for that.
you were telling us to watch out for Uzbekistan,
Yep.
and you may have mentioned that Messi was a bit old.
Yeah.
Older.
Argentina, Messi's kind of
Old.
very much entering the twilight of his years. So that's gone well for me, hasn't it? He's already
Do you have a defense for this?
he's already scored 5 goals.
As of our taping now.
Yeah, and with the Uzbekistan thing, they've conceded 5 goals in one game against Portugal. One thing I will say is that I did tell you guys to watch out for Abosbek Faizalayev.
He did score.
He scored their only goal,
Okay,
so I'm
alright,
2 on there.
Okay.
I would also say that with the Messi thing, I just said Argentina probably won't win the World Cup. That hasn't happened yet.
Do you still stand by that, though?
No, I don't.
Can we ask another controversial question then? We have been discussing who's got the best fans.
Who do you think?
Well, you only found out a few weeks ago that I'm not Scottish.
You are not, in fact, Scottish.
Yeah, but they've been a great laugh. Scottish fans, it's the first time they've got to go to the World Cup in a very long time, and they seem like they've really enjoyed it. Team hasn't done quite as well as they would have hoped, but they look like they've had a lot of fun, which is, as you said, it's kind of what the World Cup can be about at its best.
Could we see sometime an Asian nation winning the World Cup?
Who's to say? I mean, at the moment, only South American and European countries have won the World Cup. Not in the immediate future, I don't think. But stranger things have happened. Sometimes you do get surprises. As I've said, I mean, these countries are I think last time I checked, Japan were ranked 20th in the world, South Korea around 30th. They are in that kind of level just below international football's elite. But breaking into that, that's tricky. And are they going to get to a position where they can, play all 7 games, beat teams like, I don't know, Germany, France, Netherlands, Argentina? Right now, I wouldn't put money on it. But maybe 10, 20 years from now, who's to say?
We're halfway through now. Are you going to change your predictions for a possible winner?
Who did I say last time? I know who I
don't
said
think you had one.
I know who I said wasn't going to win. And I'm not going to go
You
back.
predicted a European country.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
France look like they're getting it together. But that's probably a bit of a curse on France now that I've said that. But if I had to go with anyone, I think it would be them.
I'm hoping that when we have a follow-up, you will have,
Which we will.
which we will with James, that you will have changed your facial hair
I'll have to come
again
back
for
with
that.
something new. Yeah.
Something new. Well, it's awesome, as always, to talk to you about football. And
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we will definitely have you again with that Everton mug.
That comes with me. That's contractual.
All right. Well, that will do it for us this week. I'm Ivan Watson.
And I'm Kunal Sehgal. We'll catch you next week.
And I'm James.
You're supposed to do something.
I need to. I was like, great.
This time he gets the outtakes.